welcome to Gunners R Us podcast, where we are positively Patreon, and that we are. So, the Atletico game is in the books, and it's actually a lot more conversational than we thought it was going to be. Or maybe not as much as we thought it was going to be. I think it was just maybe different. And it couldn't have been more polar opposites of the night before, the other semi-final, which we kind of expected. But I think the games were just, I wouldn't say equally as entertaining, but it wasn't the chalk and cheese of super entertaining and then just awful football. It was a good football game. I think it was a really intriguing tie. Lots of kind of momentum shifts, and I think we turned up. I think they didn't for a half, and that's what's cost them. There's some really suspect decisions, but we'll get to all of those here on the Patreon. And this will also be a preview for Fulham. So today we've got review the Atletico game, preview the Fulham game. And again, as at the moment, as we're just starting the Patreon, this is going up on the main feed as a little preview of what you're going to get. But these are going to, unfortunately, they're going to go away soon because these will be going all on the Patreon. Not all of them, but this one, like a review and preview. Monday and Wednesday will always be totally free. But the other ones will be just thrown on here as little previews. Not all of them, but just some of them. And this particular Friday night one, or Friday one, I think a lot of people enjoy because it kind of gets you ready for the weekend. So, where do I start? I think we'll completely just cover the Atletico game, and then we're going to, in the second half, cover the Fulham game. So, lineup-wise, I think all of our stomachs dropped on that lineup when we saw what people were calling the front three of doom, which is a little harsh, I'd say, but Madueke, Gyökeres, and Martinelli. The only redeeming, not the only redeeming, that's really harsh because I really like Gyökeres, and I don't mind Madueke and Martinelli. I think it's a shame as far as being a fan or as for that team that have worked hard all year, that it's almost that those three have to play. And that's a credit to them because they are fit. They're the ones that are fit for the run-in. They're the ones that are up to fitness, ready to go. Martinelli went down with a hamstring the other day. He's fit and ready to go 2 days later. Madueke looks, when he came off, he looked still full of energy, full of beans. So it means that it's not like he's running on fumes. And I think generally as a team, I don't think we looked like we were running on fumes. It was the first time where I thought, there's a bit of energy there, which is really strange. And at the end, there was no collapsing on the field like the Newcastle game. It was kind of, we were in control of a lot of it, which means you can kind of dictate a lot of the pressures and the energies and how much you're doing. And I think we rotated the squad nicely throughout the game with Saturday in mind, because I think, ironically, Saturday is the most important game because of the fact that City haven't played and all these kind of things. I think at the start of the week, if you had said we'd beat Newcastle 1-0 and then go into the Atletico game and get a draw away from home to take it to the home game and then go to Fulham and feel like we have close to a fully fit squad minus Timber and Havertz and Moreno, I'd be very happy, especially getting minutes into. We got 10 minutes into Saka the other day. We got another 20 minutes into Saka again. I mean, I could see him starting the Fulham game, and I think that's exciting because that feels like the players are getting the right minutes at the right times. And I don't think I'd say, if you asked him if everyone was fit, would you ever really play Gyökeres, Martinelli, and Madueke as a three? Because I think individually they're all massive assets, and I don't think he would. I think he's in a situation where they're the ones that are available, and they're the ones that are going to get the minutes. And when you look at the record, I think they've got 4 wins as a starting front three. 4 wins, 3 draws, and 2 losses. So that's not far. 4 wins, 4 draws, 2 losses. So it's not awful, I mean, to play 10 games and lose 2 of them with that, it's not the worst. It just seems like it's the worst simply because we've lost, I think, 6 games this season. So a third of them happened when that front three started, and it's probably, if I had to guess, all in recent times because, again, Saka isn't available, Havertz isn't available, Eze hasn't been available, even Trossard. And the Trossard one's interesting. He didn't play a second against Newcastle, and he only played 20 minutes here. So it's a bit of I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if he's fallen out of favour. He didn't look up to it when he came on, I don't think. I think he was fine, but he didn't look sharp. Nor did Saka. I think Saka looked really poor considering he looked so good in that cameo against Newcastle. So it might just be situational. Maybe the pace of the game was actually better than what he realised from watching, because it looked like he couldn't get kind of a second on the ball, and maybe he was like lingering. And as the game went on, I think right at the end, he started to kind of drift inside like he does, which is actually what caused a potential penalty incident later on in the game. So they kind of grew into. I think Jesus was good when he came off the bench, but I just think that the squad rotation was actually decent. Mosquera coming on right at the end, Calafiori not getting in minutes, because I think we could rotate at the weekend where I think Saliba and Gabriel are going to have to play throughout, which it's a lower load as centre back as long as they stay fit, touch wood. But Rare, Saliba, Gabriel, they could rotate it to Calafiori and Mosquera as the fullbacks, and I'd be very happy with that at the weekend. And that means Hincapi and White or whoever, Timber if he's back next week against Atletico, could be even more fresh. And I think fullbacks are two things you got to keep. A couple of the things you have to keep fresh. When you look at Hakimi, he's now out for 7 weeks. Plays PSG is one of PSG's best players, but the fullback is very demanding on the body. So to rotate them and to be able to do that again would be really good, because Mosquera's not played crazy amount of minutes. Hincapi has, unfortunately. Zubamendi in the midfield. Could we see Rice, who was playing pretty much in the 6 last night, and Zubamendi much higher, which actually seemed to work a lot better, in my opinion. Maybe Rice becoming the 6 means Lewis Skelly, or maybe Ezra and Odegaard in the middle against Fulham, and you bring Trossard back in because he hasn't played many minutes. Odegaard coming off, 60 minutes? So he only had to do an hour, and I was worried about him hitting 90 minutes every week or every 3 days, because he looked physically spent when it got to 90 minutes against Newcastle. And in his interview, he kind of alluded that was hard. And I thought, he has to do it every 2 days, because we're in that spell that we were mentioning, that City have got a big spell coming up. We've got, I think it works out a game every 2.7 days in this little period. So rotation is key. Rice and Zubamendi are basically the whole. Rice, Zubamendi, Saliba, Gabriel, Raya are almost like having to play every 3 days. And there's not really a way out of it. Because I think if we got to the Fulham game at the weekend and Rice was not starting, I think we'd all be concerned. Because, a maximum of 6 games left. I think we're just hoping Rice, could he just get through it? Could he rehab in between this? I'm sure training sessions are going out the window now. They're not getting any minutes into legs at training at the Sobar Reality Centre. I think they've got to be sitting there just kind of legs in ice, just hoping that they'll be fit for the next game. But the rest of it, I think we've rotated nicely. The fullbacks, the wingers, the centre forward, the attacking midfielder. I think we've done a good job to keep people fresh, and I think it showed last night, because, like I said, when that dropped, I thought, I don't like the look of this. And I was seeing the reaction online, I really just hoped they could deliver enough that people would eat their words, because if it doesn't, it's going to be hard to defend. That's how I described it. I like the 3 players. I'm not keen on them playing together, but I'm also aware that he has no other choice. Ezra's not fully fit to play from the start. Saka isn't. Trossard, I assume maybe, but either way, you just go. He's picking who he can, really. So I just hope they could turn out a performance, and I think they did, because I think that first half we were really in control. I thought we played really well without overly creating massive chances or anything like that. But it was nice to see us kind of calm them down. The crowd were up, the toilet paper was everywhere. After about 10 minutes, that initial storm that they had kind of subsided, and I thought, all right, we're getting a foothold now. We slowly got a foothold, and Madueke beat his man early, which is always huge for a winger, and I think that set a tone. And he got it to that back post, and I think Martinelli got in the way of Hincapi, I think, at the back post. And after that, it was pressure without overly concerning their keeper. But we eventually get a penalty, and that comes from a turnover of the ball where Alvarez cannot keep the ball. Heads it back to us. A little hook around the corner. Martin Zubamendi and Martin Odegaard. The Martins kind of connecting. And eventually just lays it into Gyökeres, who opens his body perfectly. It just kind of it's so clumsy from Atleti. Just knocks into the back of him. It's a clear penalty. Some saying red card. And I do get it because if he doesn't do it, he's on the penalty spot with a clear sight on goal. So I get that. But the ruling of like, last man or clear and obvious like goal scoring opportunity, I don't know. I don't think it should have been a red. I can't remember if he got booked. You assume he did, but I got a feeling he didn't even get booked. But I don't think it's a red. I really don't. But I must admit, it's so nice. And they checked it for a second, and I didn't feel worried at all. In hindsight, having watched the whole game, I probably should have been more worried than I was about that overturning. But Gyökeres steps over it, and it's so nice to have a player. And this is where the credit needs to go to him, because if you've listened to the podcast all year, I'm someone who's been a big proponent of him. I thought he played really well in this first half. He that run he did, length of the field, knocks it back. Odegaard can't get the shot away, feints it, goes again, and it gets blocked. I think Odegaard's got to do better there, but he just bullies teams sometimes, and I think he gets so much worse criticism than he ever deserves. And one thing we do know he can do is strike a ball, he can score a penalty, and he is unflappable. He seems a player that when a lot of players seem nervous, he isn't. He's got that little bit of steel that you want. And when he stepped up, I thought, there's no way it's getting saved. And maybe the replay showed that maybe I was a bit too confident, because it does go through the hands of Oblak. But he just strikes it so well. He runs off doing the Bane, which I always have to do as like a, I don't know, superstitious maybe. I have to do it. But it's such a big goal. It's a semi-final. And this is something that I was thinking about last night. Was I wasn't overly nervous during the game. And I wasn't overly concerned. Not because they weren't dangerous. They were. And they definitely had their chances. But I don't know if we've been kind of manipulated as Arsenal fans into not being excited for it. But I mean, I remember watching the Inter Milan-Barcelona semi-final last year. I remember watching ours and PSG's semi-final. And it was such high stakes. Both legs of just, oh my God, they're so close to greatness. And this one felt like, if at the start of the season someone said you're going to win, you're going to have the home leg at the home leg is the second game, and you're going to go into it with basically a 0-0. And the Emirates has just got to be up. For the first time, the Emirates is going to host the semi-final second leg in the Champions League. And it will be against Atletico Madrid, who you already had beaten 4-0 that year at home. I would be like, what? So we just got to beat Atletico and we're in a Champions League final. Like, we talk about it, everyone said, Arsenal could be favourites to the Champions League and they could get to a final. We all say all these things, but truly believing it, I mean, it's been 20 years. And before that, it never happened. In, 1886, 140 years, Arsenal have made one European final. This would be the second. Touch wood, because I don't like the fact I was presumptuous. But do you know what I mean? Like, we should be so excited. Maybe it'll come more in the second leg, because it's so... The two legs does make it feel less jarring and nervy, because if that was one leg and it was in a neutral venue, I think I would have been petrified last night. But you kind of felt like you just had to put on a performance last night, which we did, and just come back with a result, and then all the pressure will be on next week. And when the pressure's up, you want it to be at home, and you want all your players available. And it looks like it could be that way. But I just wanted to talk to the fact that, it did. I don't know if other Arsenal fans felt this way, but it didn't feel like a big deal. And I mean, pretty much every year I watch Champions League. I watch all the knockouts. And very rarely are we ever in it. like we said, this is our third ever semi-final. And when I watch the semi-finals, I'm like, oh my God, these players are so close to just... like I said, greatness, or just historic moments. It's like watching a championship game in the NFL. It's like, oh my God, you're going to step foot on the field at a Super Bowl. If they can just get that touchdown, for example. And that's us at this point. It's like, if we can just get a goal next week, for example. That goal, whoever scores it. Like that, we all remember the Lehmann save in the build-up to the Champions League final last year, 20 years ago. We remember Henry scoring at Madrid. We remember these moments that got us there. And it's funny because this year, Havertz latest Sporting, Gyökeres' penalty there, these could be huge moments in what got us actually to the club's second ever final. And next week could be huge, because whoever scores that goal, it could be Madueke, it could be Martinelli, it could be so many people that are going to go down in history as the player that took us there. And it just didn't feel that way. And like I said, I'm hoping it comes next week and there's more of a feeling of kind of we're on the cusp of something mad. Because there is a chance that as Arsenal fans, we're going to watch our players, that team, Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka, Saliba, Gabriel, finally step foot at a Champions League final. And I know a lot of people, people have done it. There's young players from, Doué scored in a final for PSG. It happens, but not to us. And I just want everyone to kind of remember that because we're so close to it. If we could just turn in a performance as good as last night at home, I think we'd have enough. But it got to the second half. They came out relatively fine. It kind of much of the same. The game was kind of null and void, I'd describe it. Like Arsenal kind of taking the sting out of it. We had good. We were, it was possible for us to go forward. It was possible for them to go forward. And eventually they have an opportunity. And it starts, I think, with, I think it's, I can't remember exactly how it starts, but Griezmann has a shot. Oh no, Lookman has a shot. And Raya kind of parries it up. Griezmann kind of like deflects through almost perfectly where you think, oh, what a nightmare. And then he shoots. And Gabriel gets his hands behind his back, completely behind his back. It does touch his arm. It goes out for a corner. Griezmann doesn't even ask for it. You can't get your body that close. But what was about to happen, I realise now, again, I was closer to danger than I realised. I felt very confident because I think I'm so used to Premier League refs. And we know in Champions League, like you can kind of nick it at someone's hand and you might get something. But when I saw it, I thought, well, no, you can't. Other than removing his arms, he couldn't have done more to avoid it. And he does very well, Gabriel. The corner comes in, back post, Saliba knocks out for another corner. This one comes in and it's kind of floated. A well-worked corner. And I think it's Llorente hits it. And he's hitting it maybe 20 yards wide of the goal. Just a miss kick. And White is trying to kind of block it, I assume. And his hand is down. It is a natural position. It does look well away from the body, but it's a natural position. And when they all claimed for it, I thought this could just be Atleti being Atleti because throughout this game, and everyone's they are everything that they think, that the English media think Arsenal are. They were saying these two managers are absolute chaos. It's like, we don't, and I think Gerrard said it to Kieran afterwards where he said, it's disgraceful the way he was acting. But I mean, it's not far from what Arteta does in the Premier League. So it is. Arteta doesn't do that much. He's just out of his technical box, like every other manager. Other than that, he doesn't really do much. He's no different to any other manager. But Simone, it's also, it's a performance. It's the way the players act. They do certain things. So, for example, there was that tackle on Alvarez that happened a bit later where basically he knocked it on and kicked. They went shin on shin, him and Rice. And he stayed down. And Atletico, they do a thing where once they win that ball back, half the players are already checking on the player and screaming for like stretchers and all, you know what I mean, doing all that. So the refs now kind of got his half eye, like looking like, oh my God, is it bad? Maybe there was something there I didn't see. So now he's now questioning what he's seen. He's looking over at the bench and they're all like, Simone's on his knees. There's about 10 of them out of the technical area doing the signal for like a stretcher and stuff. So they kick the ball out. They all run to the ref. And then at that point, the ref's thinking, oh my God, have I missed something? They checks his ear and, the VAR are going, no, I think it's fine. They just go shin on shin. But that little performance, they do that throughout the game. And again, it's dark arts. And I've said it before, dark arts are a part of the game. I don't think we're what people think we are. And I don't have a problem with Atletico doing this, but it definitely helped them, the way in which they do that performance, because they all started screaming and like they're all like feigning like they were going to faint because they couldn't believe how bad a decision it was and all that. And you're thinking, oh God, even I was like, it must be something surely. And they show it and I thought, oh yeah, it's a penalty in Europe. That's how I felt. And I didn't even notice, but there is a deflection. And, we know that it's been a very consistent rule in the Premier League. If it's a double touch, if it hits your thigh and then your hand or whatever it is, it's not a penalty. It cannot be given because you don't have a say in it. It's deflected off and you have no time to react. But in the Champions League, and you saw it with Alphonso Davies the night before in the 5-4 PSG Bayern Munich game, in Europe they give these, and they've been very consistent. I think I remember Newcastle getting eliminated last year or the year before for the exact same thing, where I think it came off Trippier's side onto his hand, and they still gave a penalty, and we were like, well, in the Premier League we don't give that. And again, it's odd that there's rules are different in different competitions. That there should be rules for football. not European rules and Premier League rules and La Liga rules. It should be rules for football. But either way, when I saw it, I said it's going to be a penalty, and it was given. I had a real cheeky feeling he was going down the middle, and I think Rea did too. But Alvarez puts it in the corner really well, and we continue. And then they have this 10-minute flurry. I think Griezmann hits the crossbar, then a deflected volley. There's one where they foul Hincapi high up, but the ref doesn't give it, because this is once the ref started to really get lost, I thought, because, when you look at the penalty he gave us, it's a nudge in the back. It's a penalty, but it's a European penalty, I'd say. I think in the Premier League they might go, well, he's got to do better or something. I don't know. And every touch was given. And it got to this point in the game after they scored, and Hincapi gets wiped out, completely wiped out. I've seen the angles now. Obviously, the Spanish TV didn't show it again. He gets wiped up high up, and they just then attack the space where he's vacated because he's still down injured. And it gets put across, and that's when Lookman has that really easy kind of one-on-one, but he ends up kind of scuffing it almost at Rea, and Rea does well to kind of handle it. But they have that spell. And at that point, like at the start of the game, before the first whistle, I went, a draw, and that's a hell of a result at that ground. That is a bit of a fortress. And then by the end of the first half with the goal, I thought, that gives us a hell of a, an opportunity to win this game, because we were better than them. Once they got that penalty and then that flurry, I thought, oof, if we can get out of here with a draw, that's a heck of a result. But after 10 minutes, that flurry ended. We brought Saka, Eze. I think Odegaard went off immediately after that penalty and looked very disappointed. But that more just because of the goal, not because he was coming off. I think it's just he's playing a lot of minutes and we need him because he is very good. He's very light, on the ball. He's a bit soft, a bit of a pushover. But boy, does he get us moving that ball up the field a lot quicker than what we do if he's not playing. And we make some changes. We change our entire front three to Jesus, Trossard and Saka. I thought he was going to leave Martinelli on at one point. And I thought, is he just going to do a throwback to 3 years ago when we were just unbelievable for going forward? But I think it was shout out to Kyle at work who texted me afterwards. And he said, I think we should have kept Odegaard on for Saka. I think what you could have done was maybe bring on Eze for Martinelli and Saka for Madueke after that goal. And I think Eze on the left, Saka on the right, Gyökeres up front with Odegaard behind just for 5-10. Then you bring off Odegaard for Trossard and you just bring Eze inside and take Gyökeres off for Jesus or whatever you wanted to do. Because I just think Saka is better when he's got Odegaard inside. He's good with Eze, but Eze is a different player. He kind of walks around the field and he's so good and so dangerous. And as the game went on, he started to really create some openings. And when Mosquera came for Ben White, he was appearing in those Timber positions we haven't seen in ages because of Timber being injured, but kind of inside the box next to like the 9. And it was really causing Atletico some issues. And I think that might be something we're going to utilise next week, because once he did that, everything opened up. But Eze, with that kind of nonchalant-y kind of fun style, he does also create turnovers, and they were dangerous on the counter. There was, I think, even Lookman got in one more time, and it was saved or went wide. I can't remember. But then became the big moment of the game, which was Saka on the right hand side cuts in, he knocks in into the box where Eze is on the blind side of the Atleti player, and he kind of just nips in early. And as a forward, I was a forward. I played. When you feel that. You can sense it sometimes that that's coming. When Saka plays that ball, he almost senses it. Like, this is going to be problematic for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, because he's right there. And if he just reaches around and you kick him in any way or touch him, that's a penalty. And in real time, it looks like a penalty. The ref gives it. They show the replay and I went, oh, yeah, he kicks his foot. Okay, cool. There's no way it can over... You know what I mean? I was like, oh, okay, fine. And then this is when the performance started. And I was like, why is this going on? And they have a long discussion with VAR. The players are surrounding him. Simone and all of his staff are on the field, basically. There's so much going on. There's such a pantomime. Some of them are falling to the ground like, I can't believe this is the worst decision. They're all doing the VAR box. The crowd are going, including the guy with the sandwiches. Shout out that guy. But it becomes this whole thing, and they tell him to go check it. And the minute they do that, the only thing that seems to be consistent in Champions League and the Premier League is, if you go check it, they always change their decision. I don't know why, because the point of it should have been, I've given a penalty. What do you think? They've looked at it a couple of times and go, we think you should just double check. That's all the conversation should be. Not we think it's done this. We think it's done this. We think it's done this. Go check it. They should just say, we think you should check it again. And then just double check your decision. Therefore, he goes over there neutral going, well, I gave it. No, I feel good about that still. He's not going, well, they all think I should change it. And there's like a pressure. Not to mention Simone's next to him, essentially. The staff are next to him. The fans are behind. And, again, it's dark arts. I laugh at it because I do find Simone really funny. But it just feels he was pressured. And I think Ali McCoy said it was like, if that was given up the other end, there's no way that's overturned. Not in that building. And that's a worry. I don't think that's good. That's not a good look for football, I don't think. But no, there is contact. He nudges Eze. Is there a lot of contact? No. Is it a penalty? 100% it's a penalty. I think it's one of the few times where I've seen even fans who hate Arsenal going, well, it's a penalty, isn't it? I don't know how they've overturned that. So I think we've been robbed a little bit there. The only positive I'll take from this, and this is just to kind of, it's really hard to kind of get over things like that sometimes. And next week when we're 1-1, you're thinking, God, if that penalty just was given, we'd be going to a final right now. Or if we don't go, we'd be going, well, that penalty was the difference. We don't want to be thinking about it. The thing I would say is it wasn't a goal we scored and it was removed and it shouldn't have been. It was a penalty. Gyökeres was off the field. And out of form Saka or Trossard seemed to be holding the ball, but probably for Saka. They were the ones taking it. Do I feel confident at 85, 86 minutes, whatever it was, that one of those guys was going to score that penalty? I don't know. So it's not like everyone's saying we should have won it 2-1. So yeah, because we had a penalty, but there's also no guarantees we were going to score it. And on another day, we rode our luck because they could have got 2 or 3. So I think what we should do is instead of going, we should, some people were even complaining about the penalties. Like even Arteta said that's been consistent in the Champions League. We've seen that. I'm fine with that being a penalty. Just the last one doesn't make sense, and it's true, but it wasn't a guaranteed 2-1. And I think we just got to keep that in mind. And also we rode our luck. 1-1's a very good result at that stadium. And it gives us everything we could ever dream of. And I talked about it in the preview. I just wanted not a mountain. I wanted a molehill. This is a molehill. If not, it's a flat ground. Do you know what I mean? It's not, we're not going, oh man, we got overturned 2 goals. But it's possible we can do it. And we have to rear and get going. And the fans have got to come up and be like, if we can get an early one, we can believe. It's nothing like that. It's a completely level game. We played them in the group stage at home as a one-off. This second leg is a one-off. It's a draw. There's no away goals anymore, so it's irrelevant. It's just you have to go win. We have to beat Atletico Madrid at home, and we're in the Champions League final for the second time in our history, first time in 20 years. And I think that's exciting. And that's over on the Patreon. We're going to be doing previews of that. We're going to be reviewing that. We're going to be doing all sorts next week. So this is the kind of stuff you get over on the Patreon. I'm going to flip over now to the Premier League because this weekend we have Fulham. And dare I say, this is the biggest game of the week for us. And I still stick by what I've said all season. The Champions League is unbelievable. If we were to lose the next 2 in the Premier League, but we were in a Champions League final, yes, I would pin all my hopes in the Champions League and say it'd still be an unbelievable season. If we win one of these, either one, it's a huge season. Because one thing we haven't done, the other thing we haven't done in forever. Either way, it's good. Collectively, it's history. But what we need to do is the Premier League is the bread and butter. It is in our hands. It is winnable. And to win the Champions League, we have to beat Atletico Madrid. And then we have to beat one of Bayern or PSG. And we saw what that looked like the other night. In the Premier League, we have Fulham, who are 10th. We have West Ham, who are 18th? No, 17th now. We have Burnley, who are 19th. And then we have Crystal Palace, who are hopefully, we got hope, are preparing or have just played. I can't remember the exact order. I think it's just played their biggest ever final, and they might be completely hungover or completely destroyed or whatever it is. That's a lot more doable than winning the Champions League. And we've worked for 34 games to get to this moment. And it is in our hands. So the Premier League is still the one. And I think Jamie Carragher said that on Monday on the punditry, which is kind of, that's the game. That is the one. Unfortunately, I'm recording this on Thursday, so I haven't seen any kind of press conference or anything like that. So I can't tell you if maybe Timber's going to be available or whether Havertz might feature. We haven't heard much about the Havertz injury. We don't know anything about this Timber injury that's kept him out for nearly 7 weeks now. And we can really do with him in the running because we're getting through at the minute. Arteta was able to play the front three of doom. They say the front three of doom was playing Tierney, Zinchenko, and Waneri last year up front in the league. That's the real front three of doom. But he had to play that, but he's got away with it because that's an unbelievable result with not an ideal front three. And it's just another game on now where he's like, okay, well now I can act. Like for example against Fulham, we could play as a Saka and Gyökeres with Odegaard behind. That's an unbelievable front three with a 10 behind. Like, I think that team we haven't seen that team all season really. Maybe one game. We haven't seen it in a while. So the ability to do that with, Saka's played 30 minutes in 6 weeks and Odegaard played 120 minutes. No, more than that. 150 minutes in the last 4 days. And Eza has played... He started 70 minutes. He's played pretty much 90 minutes. So they're fresh. Gyökeres came on last week, but had to play 60 minutes, then played another 60. So 120. So it's not... They're not absolutely fried. Madueke looked fresh as Daisy coming on, so he can play the last 30 minutes of this one if hopefully we can get ahead. There's also Dowman right there, Trossard, Martinelli. There's options. So this is so important, this game, and I think the 2 home games back to back here of Fulham on Saturday and then Tuesday Atletico could be season defining, because I said that I thought that the major twist in the title race is going to become in these 2 games, because our 2 hardest games left were back to back, Newcastle and Fulham. And then, dare I say, Everton away is maybe City's hardest, but with the psychological edge of 6 points clear if we can win. That's massive. And think of the energy they're going to have if they can beat Fulham, and then Monday night they watch City draw, and then the next night they're in a Champions League semi-final. That's going to be really demoralising for City, because everyone can say, their domestic double probably going to be won this year. But if they drop out a little bit of the title race slightly, they're still going to believe that we're going to drop. I do believe we might drop points. But that, and then also knowing that we're in a Champions League semi-final, maybe heading to a final, it's going to be demoralising, because if someone could say we could win the FA Cup and the Carabao, but City were in the Champions League final / semi, plus take the lead on us in the league, I know which one I'd rather be in. It's the one we are. So I think this is huge to get that 3 points, bank it, and then watch City Monday night and be like, we're in a Champions League semi-final tomorrow. And also, even if they win it, and we're like, all right, let's go into the death. We know that, but at least we can then go, all right, all the energy into Champions League. Because if we can just bank that Champions League final, that's after the league's finished. Win that, and then after that, we've got a 4-day gap between that and West Ham. Then it's a 7-day gap for Burnley. Well, it's actually 8 days nearly. And then another 6-day gap. So, and then another 6-day gap. So we're kind of getting out of the woods here. So this is so important for us to kind of, if we could win this week to the West Ham game, that's a Champions League final, and we are knocking down at winning the Premier League. And that is how important this week is. As for the game with Fulham are actually in decent form. They're a very good team. It really depends on what Arsenal turns up. The team that turned up against Bournemouth, and again, we did have the front three of doom, and there was a bizarre energy to that game, and there was also some really bad luck. I think both their goals deflected into their paths. So as much as we didn't like it, the Newcastle game started well. Havertz going off completely changed the game plan. Their big physical side. Fulham are not so big and physical, but quite technically good, and they can cause us a lot of problems. Actually, very similar to Atletico, the way they play. But they are susceptible. They can concede, and they're also full of Arsenal players. So I'm hoping, because they're not really playing for anything, I would quite like them to just roll over a little bit. Do you know what I mean? That'd be really helpful. Because if we win that 2 or 3-0 and we're not gassed and there's no one collapsing on the field and we got a couple players off, that is going to feel so good knowing that we're waiting for that City game and then us on the Tuesday. What I'm interested with, and I haven't checked this, is do City play again before we play after we take potential 6-point lead is what I want to know. Because as much as that's a mental edge, it depends on. So this week we got a Friday game, Leeds Burnley. We're playing 5:30. City are Monday night at 8, and then the week after we've got us and West Ham at 4:30 on the Sunday, and City at 5:30 against Brentford. Yeah, so if we take a 6-point lead, they can catch back up to us before we play again against West Ham, which could be massive. They've got Brentford at home. You would assume they're probably going to win that, I would have thought. Brentford struggled at Man United this week, so I can't imagine them not struggling with City. But and if we don't beat Fulham, there's a chance they'll be top by the time we play West Ham, and there's a chance we'll be 3 points behind, or even 2 points behind, and then that West Ham game is going to be difficult because they're fighting for their lives and they're actually in decent form. So it's going to be a swing, but we are in that mire at the minute of games every 2.7 days. City go into it around that time. Around the time they play West Ham, they start to go into like a 4 games in, I think it's 11 days or something, 12 days. Whatever we've just been doing, they're doing it. We're doing it a little bit further out from the end. But that's why it's so important. Like and that's why I'm not worrying about goal difference. If we can just get a win, if we win 1-0 against Fulham, cool. If we beat Atletico 1-0, cool. If we beat West Ham 1-0, cool. I'll let the chips fall where they may, because then we've got Burnley. And maybe if things have gone a certain way, we might need to go into that game going, can't just win this, we have to win it by 5, because that's the only way we're going to be able to even compete here. So it's going to be very interesting. And also what's going to be very interesting is the game tonight with Crystal Palace, because we are all team Crystal Palace right now, because they're against Shakhtar Donetsk tonight, and the order in which they have to play looks like it's going to be, because they're getting rearranged fixtures everywhere. They've got a Brentford game as well. We would like them through, because we will be playing them a few days, I believe, after. I think it's after the final. So fingers crossed on that. I think any kind of mental edge we can get, we'll take. I think we have to at this point. The Fulham game is tough because I'm previewing it, but we are a couple of days out. So I'm hoping for some good injury news as far as Timber. I don't think Havertz. I think it's too early for Havertz. I'm hoping we're slowly gaining our minutes on Saka, Trossard, Eze, and managing the load on Odegaard. Rice looked fit coming off. Zubimendi had one of his better games in a while. So things are looking up, I'd say that. And as a whole, like I said, a win on Saturday night, we are going to be very excited Arsenal fans, because we can watch that Monday night game with hope. Because if they win, City, it's not too much of a problem. It's not ideal. We want them to lose. We want something to happen. But at least we've got that little edge, because the worst case scenario is they win that 1-0 and then they win again against Brentford. And then by the time we play West Ham, we're level on points and level on goal difference again, or they're slightly ahead on goal difference. And then we at least know what we got to do. So it's a nice little thing, but it's all hinging on that Fulham game. I'm not even going to talk about the worst case scenario. We know what that is. So I'm excited for it. It's going to be a big weekend. So keep your positive thoughts, you know what I mean? Because it could be huge. It could be a huge week in Arsenal Football Club history. And if you're a younger fan, this might be the first time you're ever dealing with this. To be honest, it feels like I was 16, I think, at the Champions League final. I was 14 when we went unbeaten. I was not dissecting games like I am now. I wasn't also living for it. You know, when you're a kid, you're a fan. But as you get older, I feel like you become like, I don't know what happens, but it becomes way more important. Dealing with all this is mad, because we have 6 games left. And I can't believe within 6 games we might actually win the Champions League and the Premier League. But we could also lose both. And that's why it's called football, and that's why it's exciting. And this has been a Patreon preview, so these will go away soon and be totally on the Patreon. But the Monday and Wednesday will ever be free on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. But yeah, I just want to let everyone know what's going on the Patreon. And if you like this, please subscribe below to get even more content. It's about £6 a month. But for now, I'll be back on Monday, the day of the City Everton game, hoping we are 6 points clear in the title race. Thank you again. See you next week. Bye bye.